Kairo and Eira journeyed deeper into the Chrono realm. They had been traveling for days. The forest around them felt strange. Time was out of sync.
This is a common side effect of unchecked shard use.
In some places, flowers bloomed and withered in seconds. In others, fallen leaves hung frozen in midair. Kairo had never seen anything like it. He felt a growing unease. The air hummed with an unnatural energy.
This is so strange. I've never seen anything like it.
They soon discovered this disturbance wasn't random. It was centered around a mysterious town nestled within the forest. The town was shrouded in an eerie silence. It called to Kairo and Eira, urging them closer.
The danger of a disrupted time flow isn't just about flowers and leaves. It's about the very essence of our world, the delicate balance that keeps everything in harmony. When time is out of sync, it affects every living being, every natural process. Imagine a world where seasons come and go in a matter of days, where the sun rises and sets in minutes. The chaos would be unimaginable. Unchecked, this imbalance could unravel the fabric of reality. The threads that hold our existence together are fragile, and once they start to fray, it can lead to catastrophic consequences. Time is not just a measure of moments passing, it's the glue that binds our reality. Without it, everything we know could cease to exist. This is our responsibility, Kairo, to maintain the balance. We are the guardians of time, the keepers of this delicate equilibrium. It's a heavy burden, but one that we must bear with courage and determination. The fate of our world rests on our shoulders.
What happened to those ancient warriors who lost control? They were once like us, tasked with the same duty. But they let their power consume them, and in doing so, they lost their way. Their stories are a grim reminder of what can happen when we fail to control the forces we wield.
Their powers warped them, turned them into something monstrous. They became shadows of their former selves, twisted and corrupted by the very energy they were meant to control. It's a fate worse than death, a transformation that leaves them neither fully alive nor truly dead. These stories serve as warnings, reminders of the power we wield and the importance of control. We must learn from their mistakes, understand the limits of our abilities, and never let our guard down. The balance of time is a delicate dance, one that requires precision and unwavering focus.
Kairo listened intently, understanding the gravity of their mission. He knew that their task was not just about fixing the present but ensuring a stable future. Every decision they made, every action they took, would ripple through time, affecting countless lives. He held his shard, a small, glowing crystal, tightly in his hand. This shard was more than just a tool. It was a symbol of their duty, a beacon of hope in the midst of chaos. Its light was a reminder of the order they sought to restore. He could feel its energy thrumming, resonating with the chaos around them. The shard was alive with power, a conduit for the forces they needed to harness. It was both a gift and a responsibility, a reminder of the immense power they held and the need to use it wisely. The closer they got to the town, the more disjointed the time flow became. Buildings flickered in and out of existence, people moved in jerky, unnatural motions, and the very air seemed to hum with tension. It was a stark reminder of the urgency of their mission.
We have to do something. We can't just stand by and watch as everything falls apart. The people here are counting on us, even if they don't know it. We have the power to make a difference, to set things right. We can't just ignore this. Every moment we hesitate, the situation worsens. We need to act, and we need to act now. The balance of time is slipping through our fingers, and we must grasp it before it's too late. People could be in danger. The longer this imbalance persists, the more lives are at risk. We have a duty to protect them, to restore the natural order and ensure that time flows as it should. This is our mission, and we cannot fail.
The town was a picture of fading beauty. Buildings stood half-crumbled, their once grand facades now mere shadows of their former selves. The air was thick with the scent of decay, a poignant reminder of the town's lost glory. Each structure told a story of better days, of laughter and life that once filled the streets. Now, only the whispers of the past lingered, echoing through the empty alleys and abandoned homes. Vines, thick with age, choked the streets. They twisted and turned, reclaiming the land that was once theirs. The greenery, though beautiful in its own right, was a stark contrast to the lifelessness of the town. It was as if nature was trying to heal the wounds inflicted by time, but the scars were too deep. The streets, once bustling with activity, were now silent, save for the rustling of leaves and the occasional chirp of a bird. Time moved sluggishly here, almost like it didn't want to move forward. The days seemed to stretch endlessly, each one blending into the next. The sun's rays, though warm, felt heavy, casting long shadows that seemed to trap the town in a perpetual twilight. It was a place where the past and present coexisted, where memories lingered like ghosts, refusing to fade away.
Look at these people. They seem so exhausted. Their eyes, once bright with hope, were now dull and lifeless. Their shoulders sagged under the weight of their burdens, and their steps were slow and heavy. It was as if the very essence of life had been drained from them, leaving behind mere shells of their former selves.
A few townsfolk wandered the streets. Their movements were aimless, as if they had no destination in mind. They moved through the town like ghosts, their presence barely noticeable. It was a haunting sight, a reminder of the town's tragic fate. Their movements were slow, their faces etched with exhaustion. Each step seemed to take a monumental effort, as if they were walking through thick mud. Their eyes were hollow, devoid of any spark of life. It was clear that they had been through a great ordeal, one that had left them broken and weary. They moved as if trapped in slow motion, as if the weight of the world rested on their shoulders. Every action, every movement, was a struggle. It was as if time itself had conspired against them, making every second an eternity. The burden they carried was not just physical but emotional and mental as well.
A stranger came weeks ago. He was unlike anyone we had ever seen. His presence was unsettling, and there was an air of menace about him. We didn't know what he wanted, but it was clear that he was up to no good. He wielded a chrono shard just like yours, but he used it for destruction. The shard, a powerful artifact, had the ability to manipulate time. In the wrong hands, it was a weapon of unimaginable power. And this stranger, he used it to wreak havoc on our town. He drained the life from everything he touched. The trees withered, the flowers wilted, and the very ground seemed to die beneath his feet. It was as if he was sucking the very essence of life from the town, leaving behind a barren wasteland.
Kairo felt a pang of sympathy for the townspeople. He could see the pain and suffering etched on their faces. It was a sight that tugged at his heartstrings, making him feel a deep sense of empathy for their plight. He couldn't imagine living like this. The thought of enduring such hardship day in and day out was almost too much to bear. He knew that something had to be done, that he couldn't just stand by and watch these people suffer. Their plight strengthened his resolve. He knew that he had to act, that he had to do something to help these people. The fire of determination burned brightly within him, fueling his desire to make a difference.
We have to help them. We can't just stand by and do nothing. These people need us, and we have the power to make a difference. We have to use our abilities for good, to bring hope and light back to this town. We have to stop this stranger. He has caused enough pain and suffering. It's time to put an end to his reign of terror and restore peace to this town.
Please, you must do something. We can't go on like this. Our town is dying, and we need your help to save it. You're our only hope. We can't live like this any longer. The despair in their voices was palpable, a testament to the dire situation they were in. It was a cry for help, a plea for salvation.
Kairo's determination grew. He knew that he couldn't let these people down. He had to find a way to stop the stranger and restore life to the town. He knew their mission was more critical than ever. The fate of the town rested on their shoulders, and they couldn't afford to fail. They had to be strong, to be brave, and to do whatever it took to save the town. They had to restore balance. The town had been thrown into chaos, and it was up to them to bring order back. They had to undo the damage that had been done and bring life back to the town. They had to save the town. It was a daunting task, but they were determined to see it through. They knew that the road ahead would be difficult, but they were ready to face whatever challenges lay in their path. For the sake of the town and its people, they would not give up. Kairo hesitated. He was still getting used to his powers.
You don't have to do this alone. We'll face him together.
Her words sparked a fire in Kairo's heart. He couldn't stand by and watch innocent people suffer. This was his chance to prove himself, to use his powers for good. He gripped his shard tighter. The crystal pulsed with a warm light. It felt reassuring. It was like the shard itself believed in him.
Let's do this.
The time for doubt was over. He was a Chrono Warrior, and he would protect those in need, even if it meant facing a powerful enemy. Even if it meant putting himself in danger. They found the stranger at the heart of the town. The townsfolk had whispered about him for days, their voices tinged with fear and uncertainty. Who was this man who had suddenly appeared, bringing with him an aura of dread? The group, a mix of brave souls and curious onlookers, approached cautiously, their eyes fixed on the enigmatic figure standing in the town square. He stood in the town square, a figure shrouded in shadow. His presence was almost otherworldly, as if he had stepped out of a nightmare and into their reality. The air around him seemed to ripple with a dark energy, making the hairs on the back of their necks stand on end. This was no ordinary man, this was someone, or something, far more sinister. The air around him crackled with a dark energy. This was Vargan. His name alone sent shivers down the spines of those who had heard the tales. Stories of his malevolent deeds had spread like wildfire, painting him as a harbinger of doom. The townsfolk had hoped he was just a myth, a cautionary tale to keep children in line, but now, faced with the reality of his presence, they knew the truth was far worse. Vargan was everything the townsfolk described and more. His very being exuded malice, and his eyes, those piercing, glowing eyes, seemed to see right through them. He was a living embodiment of decay, a force that thrived on chaos and destruction. The townsfolk could feel the weight of his malevolence pressing down on them, suffocating them with its intensity. His eyes glowed with a sinister light. They were like windows into a soul corrupted by darkness, a soul that found joy in the suffering of others. Those eyes seemed to follow them no matter where they moved, as if Vargan could see into their very hearts and minds. It was a gaze that promised pain and despair, a gaze that left them feeling exposed and vulnerable. His touch brought not life but decay. Anything he laid his hands on withered and died, as if his very essence was poisoned. The townsfolk had seen the evidence of his power, plants that had turned to ash, animals that had wasted away, and buildings that had crumbled into dust. Vargan's touch was a curse, a blight that spread wherever he went. He reveled in the suffering he caused. To him, the pain and despair of others were a source of amusement, a twisted form of entertainment. He watched with a sinister smile as the townsfolk cowered in fear, their lives unraveling before their eyes. Vargan saw himself as an artist, and chaos was his canvas. Every act of destruction, every moment of agony was a brushstroke in his masterpiece of misery. He saw it as a form of art. The way buildings crumbled, the way life drained from the eyes of his victims, it was all part of a grand design that only he could appreciate. To Vargan, the world was a stage, and he was the director of a never-ending tragedy. His actions were deliberate, calculated to inflict the maximum amount of pain and suffering, and he took great pride in his work.
So, you've come to stop me. His voice was a low, mocking drawl, dripping with contempt. He looked at the group with a sneer, as if they were nothing more than insects to be crushed underfoot. The challenge in his eyes was unmistakable. He was daring them to try, to see if they had the strength to stand against him. But deep down, he knew they were no match for his power.
He wasn't surprised to see them. In fact, he had been expecting this confrontation. It was only a matter of time before someone tried to stand up to him, to put an end to his reign of terror. But Vargan relished the challenge. He thrived on conflict, on the thrill of proving his superiority. This was just another opportunity to demonstrate his power, to show the world that he was unstoppable. He had been expecting them. He relished the challenge. The anticipation in his eyes was palpable, a hunger for the battle to come. He wanted to test his power against another shard wielder, to see if anyone could match his strength. Vargan was confident, almost arrogantly so, that he would emerge victorious. This was his domain, and he was the master of it. He wanted to test his power against another shard wielder. The thought excited him, filled him with a sense of purpose. This was what he lived for, the thrill of combat, the rush of adrenaline. He prepared himself, his dark energy swirling around him like a storm. Vargan was ready to unleash his full might, to show these intruders the true extent of his power. Kairo felt a surge of anger. How could someone be so cruel, so heartless? The sight of Vargan standing there, so confident, so unrepentant, ignited a fire within him. Kairo's fists clenched, his jaw set in determination. He couldn't let this monster continue to wreak havoc. He had to stop him, no matter the cost. How could someone be so cruel? He would defeat Vargan. The resolve in his eyes was clear. Kairo knew that this was his moment, his chance to make a difference. He had trained for this, prepared himself for the day he would face a true evil. And now, standing before Vargan, he felt a sense of clarity. He would fight with everything he had, for the sake of the town, for the sake of those who couldn't fight for themselves. He would restore balance to the town. The destruction that Vargan had caused was immense, but Kairo believed in the resilience of the human spirit. He believed that with Vargan defeated, the town could rebuild, could heal. It wouldn't be easy, but it was possible. And Kairo was determined to be the catalyst for that change. He would be the one to bring hope back to the people, and he would make him pay for the pain he had caused. Vargan would not get away with his crimes. Kairo would see to it that justice was served. The anger in his heart was matched only by his sense of duty. He would confront Vargan, face him head-on, and put an end to his reign of terror. For the sake of the town, for the sake of all those who had suffered, Kairo would fight, and he would not stop until Vargan was defeated.